Hi everyone, welcome back. This week we are continuing with Deuteronomy chapter 4. All right, let me get ready. Okay, chapter 4. Now Israel, and keep in mind this is still Moses, this is written from his perspective. It's Moses speaking. Now Israel, hear the statutes and decrees which I am teaching you to observe, that you may live and may enter in and take possession of the land which the Lord, the God of your fathers, is giving you. Again, this is as they're about to walk across the Jordan and enter the promised land. In your observance of the commandments of the Lord your God, which I enjoin upon you, you shall not add to what I command you, nor subtract from it. You have seen with your own eyes what the Lord did at Baal Peor. The Lord your God destroyed from your midst everyone that followed the Baal of Peor. But you who clung to the Lord your God are all alive today. Therefore I teach you the statutes and decrees as the Lord my God has commanded me, that you may observe them in the land that you are entering to occupy. Observe them carefully, for thus will you give evidence of your wisdom and intelligence to the nations, who will hear of all these statutes and say, this great nation is truly a wise and intelligent people. For what great nation is there that has God so close to it as the Lord our God is to us whenever we call upon him? Or what great nation has statutes and decrees that are as just as this whole law which I am setting before you today? However, take care and be earnestly on your guard, not to forget the things which your own eyes have seen, nor let them slip from your memory as long as you live, but teach them to your children and to your children's children. There was the day on which you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, and he said to me, assemble the people for me. I will have them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me as long as they live in the land, and may so teach their children. You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, which blazed to the very sky with fire and was enveloped in a dense black cloud. Then the Lord spoke to you from the midst of the fire. You heard the sound of the words, but saw no form. There was only a voice. He proclaimed to you his covenant, which he commanded you to keep, the 10 Commandments, which he wrote on 2 tablets of stone. The Lord charged me at the time to teach you the statutes and decrees which you are to observe over in the land you will occupy. You saw no form at all on the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb from the midst of the fire. Be strictly on your guard, therefore, not to degrade yourselves by fashioning an idol to represent any figure, whether it be in the form of a man or a woman, or any animal on the earth, or any bird that flies in the sky, of anything that crawls on the ground, or of any fish in the waters under the earth. And when you look up to the heavens and behold the sun or the moon or any star among the heavenly hosts, do not be led astray into adorning them and serving them. These the Lord your God has let fall to the lot of all other nations under the heavens. But you he has taken and led out of that iron foundry, Egypt, that you might be his very own people, as you are today. Since the Lord has angered against me on your account and swore that I should not cross the Jordan nor enter the good land which he is giving you as a heritage, I myself shall die in this country without crossing the Jordan. But you will cross over and take possession of that good land. Take heed, therefore, lest, forgetting the covenant which the Lord your God has made with you, you fashion for yourselves against his command an idol in any form whatsoever. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. When you have children and grandchildren, and have grown old in the land, should you then degrade yourself by fashioning an idol in any form, and by this evil done in his sight provoke the Lord your God? I call heaven and earth this day to witness against you, that you shall all quickly perish from the land which you will occupy when you cross the Jordan. You shall not live in it for any length of time, but shall be promptly wiped out. The Lord will scatter you among the nations, and there shall remain but a handful of you among the nations to which the Lord will lead you. There you shall serve gods fashioned by the hands of man out of wood and stone, gods which can neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell. Yet there too you shall seek the Lord your God, and you shall indeed find him when you search after him with your whole heart and your whole soul. In your distress, when all these things shall have come upon you, you shall finally return to the Lord your God and heed his voice. Since the Lord your God is a merciful God, he will not abandon and destroy you, nor forget the covenant which under oath he made with your fathers. Ask now of the days of old, before your time, ever since God created man upon the earth. Ask from one end of the sky to the other. Did anything so great ever happen before? Was it ever heard of? Did a people ever hear the voice of God speaking from the midst of fire as you did, and live? Or did any God venture to go and take a nation for himself from the midst of another nation, by testings, by signs and wonders, by war, with his strong hands and outstretched arm, and by great terrors, all of which the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? All this you were allowed to see that you might know the Lord, all this you were allowed to see that you might know the Lord is God, and there is no other. Out of the heavens he let you hear his voice to discipline you. On earth he let you seek his great fire, and you heard him speaking out of the fire. For love of your fathers he chose their descendants and personally led you out of Egypt by his great power, driving out of your way nations greater and mightier than you, so as to bring you in and to make their land your heritage, as it is today. This is why you must now know and fix in your heart that the Lord is God in the heavens above and on the earth below, and that there is no other. You must keep his statutes and commandments, which I enjoin on you today, that you and your children after you may prosper, and that you may have long life on the land which the Lord your God is giving you forever. Then Moses set apart 3 cities in the region east of the Jordan, that a homicide might take refuge there if he unwittingly killed his neighbor, to whom he had previously borne no malice, and that he might save his life by fleeing to one of these cities: Bezer in the desert in the region of the plateau for the Reubenites, Ramoth in Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan in Bashan for the Manassites. This is the law which Moses set before the Israelites. These are the ordinances, statutes, and decrees which he proclaimed to them when they had come out of Egypt, and were beyond the Jordan in the ravine opposite Beth Peor in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, and whom Moses and the Israelites defeated after coming out of Egypt. They occupied his land and the land of Og, king of Bashan, as well, the land of these 2 kings of the Amorites in the region east of the Jordan, from Aroer on the edge of the Wadi Arnon to Mount Sion, that is Hermon, and all the Arabah to east of the Jordan as far as the Arabah Sea, under the slopes of Pisgah. Chapter 5. Moses summoned all Israel and said to them, Hear, O Israel, the statutes and decrees which I proclaim in your hearing this day, that you may learn them and take care to observe them. The Lord, our God, made a covenant with us at Horeb. Not with our fathers did he make this covenant, but with us, all of us who are alive and here this day. The Lord spoke with you face to face on the mountain from the midst of the fire. Since you were afraid of the fire and would not go up the mountain, I stood between the Lord and you at that time to announce to you these words of the Lord. I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, that place of slavery. You shall not have other gods besides me. You shall not carve idols for yourselves in the shape of anything in the sky above or the earth below, or in the waters beneath the earth. If you shall not bow down before them, you shall not bow down before them to worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, inflicting punishments for their fathers' wickedness on the children of those who hate me, down to the 3rd and 4th generation, but bestowing mercy down to the 1000th generation on the children of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave unpunished him who takes his name in vain. Is this part familiar? What are these? What are we listing here? We just did the first couple. 10 Commandments. Take care to keep holy the Sabbath day as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you may labor and do all your work, but on the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. No work may be done then, whether by you or your son or daughter, or your male or female slave, or your ox or donkey, or any of your beasts, or the alien who lives with you. Your male and female slaves should rest as you do. For remember that you too were once slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you from there with his strong hand and outstretched arm. That is why the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. Honor your father and mother, as the Lord your God has commanded you, that you may have a long life and prosperity in the land which the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear dishonest witness against your neighbor. Don't lie. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not desire your neighbor's house or field, nor his male or female slave, nor his ox or donkey, nor anything that belongs to him. These words and nothing more the Lord spoke with a loud voice to your entire assembly on the mountain from the midst of the fire and the dense cloud. He wrote them upon 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. Again, now we're back to Moses. This is still Moses speaking here. Me is Moses. But when you heard the voice from the midst of the darkness, while the mountain was ablaze with fire, you came to me in the person of all your tribal heads and elders, and said, The Lord our God has indeed let us see his glory and his majesty. We have heard his voice from the midst of the fire, and have found out today that a man can still live under God, has spoken with him. But why should we die now? Surely this great fire will consume us. If we hear the voice of the Lord our God any more, we shall die. For what mortal has heard, as we have, the voice of the living God speaking from the midst of the fire and survived? Go closer, you, and hear all that the Lord our God will say, and then tell us what the Lord our God tells you. We will listen and obey. The Lord heard your words as you were speaking to me, and said to me, I have heard the words of these people have spoken to you, which are all well said. Would that they might always be of such mind, to fear me and to keep all my commandments. Then they and their descendants would prosper forever. Go tell them to return to their tents. Then you wait here near me, and I will give you all the commandments, the statutes and decrees you must teach them, that they may observe them in this land, which I am giving them to possess. Be careful, therefore, to do as the Lord your God has commanded you, not turning aside to the right or to the left, but following exactly the way prescribed for you by the Lord your God, that you may live and prosper, and may have a long life in the land which you are to occupy. Excuse me. Chapter 6. These then are the commandments, the statutes and decrees which the Lord your God has ordered that you be taught to observe in the land into which you are crossing for conquest, so that you and your son and your grandson may fear the Lord your God, and keep throughout the days of your lives all his statutes and commandments, which I enjoin on you, and thus have a long life. Hear then, Israel, and be careful to observe them, that you may grow and prosper the more, in keeping with the promise of the Lord, the God of your fathers, to give you a land flowing with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Therefore you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. Take to heart these words which I enjoin on you today. Drill them into your children. Speak of them at home and abroad, whether you are busy or at rest. Bind them to your wrist as a sign, and let them be as a pendant on your forehead. Write them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. When the Lord your God brings you into the land which he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that he would give to you, a land with fine, large cities that you did not build, with houses full of goods of all sorts that you did not garner, with cisterns that you did not dig, with vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. And when, therefore, you eat your fill, take care not to forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, that place of slavery. The Lord your God shall you feel. The Lord your God shall you fear. Him shall you serve, and by his name shall you swear. You shall not follow other gods, such as those of the surrounding nations, lest the wrath of the Lord your God flare up against you and destroy you from the face of the land. For the Lord your God, who is in your midst, is a jealous God. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test, as you did at Manasseh, but keep the commandments of the Lord your God, and the ordinances and statutes he has enjoined on you. Do what is right and good in the sight of the Lord, and that you may, according to his word, prosper, and may enter in and possess the good land which the Lord promised on oath to your fathers, thrusting all your enemies out of your way. Later on, when your son asks what these ordinances, statutes, and decrees mean, which the Lord our God has enjoined to you, you shall say to your son, We were once slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand, and he wrought before our eyes signs and wonders, great and dire, against Egypt and against Pharaoh and his whole house. He brought us from there to lead us into the land he promised on oath to our fathers, and to give it to us. Therefore the Lord commanded us to observe all these statutes in fear of the Lord our God, that we may always have as prosperous and happy a life as we have today. And our justice before the Lord our God is to consist in carefully observing all of these commandments he has enjoined on us. Chapter 7. When the Lord your God brings you into the land which you are to enter and occupy, and dislodges great nations before you, the Hittites, the Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, 7 nations more numerous and powerful than you, and when the Lord your God delivers them up to you and you defeat them, you shall doom them. Make no covenant with them, and show them no mercy. You shall not intermarry with them, neither giving your daughters to their sons, nor taking their daughters for your sons. For they would turn your sons from following me and serving other gods, and then the wrath of the Lord would flare up against you and quickly destroy you. But this is how you must deal with them. Tear down their altars, smash their sacred pillars, chop down their sacred poles, and destroy their idols by fire. For you are a people sacred to the Lord your God. He has chosen you from all the nations on the face of the earth to be a people peculiarly his own. It was not because you are the largest of all nations that the Lord set his heart on you and chose you, for you are really the smallest of all nations. It was because the Lord loved you, and because of his fidelity to the oath he had sworn to your fathers, that he brought you out with his strong hand and from the place of slavery, and ransomed you from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Understand then that the Lord your God is God indeed, the faithful God who keeps his merciful covenant down to the 1,000th generation toward those who love him and keep his commandments, but who repays with destruction the person who hates him. He does not dally with such a one, but makes him personally pay for it. You shall therefore carefully observe the commandments, the statutes, and the decrees which I enjoin on you today. As your reward for heeding these decrees and observing them carefully, the Lord your God will keep with you the merciful covenant which he promised on oath to your fathers. He will love and bless and multiply you. He will bless the fruit of your womb and the produce of your soil, your grain and wine and oil. The issue of your herds and the young of your flocks in the land which he swore to your fathers he would give you. You will be blessed above all peoples. No man or woman among you shall be childless, nor shall your livestock be barren. The Lord will remove all sickness from you. He will not afflict you with any of the malignant diseases that you know from Egypt, but he will leave them with all your enemies. You shall consume all the nations which the Lord your God will deliver up to you. Lost my spot. You are not to look on them with pity, lest you be ensnared into serving their gods. Perhaps you will say to yourselves, these nations are greater than we. How can we dispossess them? But do not be afraid of them. Rather, call to mind what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt, the great testings which your own eyes have seen, the signs and wonders, his strong hand, and outstretched arm with which the Lord your God brought you out. The same also will he do to all the nations of whom you are now afraid. Moreover, the Lord your God will send hornets among them, until the survivors who have hidden from you are destroyed. Therefore, do not be terrified by them. For the Lord your God, who is in your midst, is a great and awesome God. He will dislodge these nations before you little by little. You cannot exterminate them all at once, lest the wild beasts become too numerous for you. The Lord your God will deliver them up to you and will rout them utterly until they are annihilated. He will deliver their kings into your hand, that you may make their names perish from under the heavens. No man will be able to stand up against you till you have put an end to them. The images of their gods you shall destroy by fire. Do not covet the silver or gold on them, nor take it for yourselves, lest you be ensnared by it, for it is an abomination to the Lord your God. You shall not bring any abominable thing into your house, lest you be doomed with it. Loathe and abhor it utterly as a thing that is doomed. We will stop there for this week. So in closing, let us bow our heads and say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.